that. And so if I am so focused on staying on the line, I can't fulfill my assignment. But my God is big enough to handle my fault, my strokes, grubs, my mess ups, because he's already prepared for what I might do. He knows what I'm going to do before I do it, and he already made preparation for me before I get there. What follows darkness is light. That darkness is the indicator that light is getting ready to shine. So there it is in Genesis, when darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God in the spirit form moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. Because darkness precedes the light. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But he needs the darkness there so that God can move upon the face of the deep, so that the shift can take place. Let's look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor that shift take place in the darkness. Y'all didn't hear what I just said. Everybody's not going to see the shift that's happening. They see the chaos, but they don't see the shift. They see all the craziness going on in your life, but they don't understand that underneath the darkness, God is moving in secret. He's moving in quiet. He's moving in the hidden places. He's moving in the cracks and the corners and the crevices. He's moving in places that you cannot see. And when the light comes, they're going to see a new order. But untying. And so the universe then has no choice. First attribute of the secret place. The secret place is a place of revelation. It makes you free because it awakens you and makes you consciously aware that everything that that you thought was holding you is an illusion. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the Emerge movement, where we are empowering you on your journey towards spiritual wholeness. I'm your host, Isaac Miles, and I am so ecstatic, happy, and phenomenally overjoyed that you have decided to join me for this empowerment session. I am so glad that you are here. I think that it's going to be very beneficial to you as well as to every person that you know. You picked a good night to tune in. We got a myriad of things that we want to be able to cover, even though we have a particular topic that we're going to surround the conversation in. But it will be a broad, wide-ranging, comprehensive, robust conversation that's going to cover a lot of ground tonight. So I am so glad that you decided to join me tonight. Listen, for all of you that are listening right now that are tuned in, do me one quick favor. Take about 30 seconds and tag and share this broadcast on your page right now. Go ahead and tag as many people as you like. You don't have to do as many as Toya Coffee does, but you can tag a bunch of them. If you want to do as many as she does, I appreciate it. I'm telling you, if everybody she tagged tuned in, I would have hundreds of people. But go ahead and tag and share. If you are watching it by way of YouTube, copy the link and send it out in your group text or to other family members and text it out to them. Invite them to come and be a part of this comprehensive conversation, conscious conversation that we're going to be having tonight. I want them to be a part of the conversation. And it is indeed a conversation. I'm not going to, I know I got a little bit caught up in the last session we had. But I'm not here to preach to you. I'm here to converse with you, to have an exchange of ideas and thoughts. And I want to hear what you have to say, what you're thinking, your perspective, your point of view concerning the subject matter that we are looking at tonight. So I hope that you came ready to participate, to speak up, to get involved in the conversation. I hope that you are indeed ready. Tonight, the subject title or the topic that we are using is connection through disconnection. And we kind of began this conversation on Sunday, even though it was a very brief, abbreviated conversation, talking about the disconnection from the ego and the reconnection or real connection that is made with soul and spirit by disconnecting from the ego and all the things that it uses to identify itself. Remember that ego, simple definition for it, is that the ego is any material thing through which the ego seeks to identify itself. Any material thing through which the ego seeks to identify itself. The ego is always looking to identify itself with something, thereby convincing you and I that the ego is our true self. But you are not your ego. You are not your thoughts. You are not your body. You are not your practices. You are not your beliefs. Let me say all of that again. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not your practices. You are not your beliefs. You are not your words. You are the awareness that has the beliefs, that holds the beliefs, that thinks the thought and observes the thought, that it lives and inhabits the body, but you are not the body. Okay? The body does not define who you are. Your thoughts do not define who you are. Let me say that again. Your thoughts and your words are not what define who you are. You are the conscious awareness. You are the soul and spirit that that is observing, the observer or the thinker of the thought. You are the observer of the words and thoughts and the beliefs and the ideas and the three-dimensional tangible holdings of this lived experience, but you are not identified as any of them. And so I want to just really delve a little bit deeper into that, because I want you to take a moment and do this exercise. I think I did it on last Sunday, but I want to do it again for those who may not have been tuned in on Sunday. I want you to take a moment right now, and I want you to focus your attention and think and imagine a beautiful stream, garden, mountains, blue sky, birds flying through that sky, the waters flowing, trickling through that garden with all of the greenery and grass. Can you see it? Can you imagine it? Can you view it in your mind? Can you see it? Are you able to picture it in your mind? Now I want to ask you, are you that garden? Are you the stream? Are you that sky? Are you the birds that you just imagined? No, you are none of those things. They were thoughts, but they don't define who you are. Then who was thinking the thoughts? You. Who was aware and observing the thoughts as the pictures materialized in your conscious mind? You. You are that awareness. That's the real you. You are not identified, tied, or tethered to the thought. You are tied and tethered to the awareness that observed the thought. If you were tied to the thought, then the thought and every fleeting thought thereafter would redefine you, and you would consistently be being redefined by every passing thought, idea, concept, belief that runs through your mind. Are you hearing me what I'm saying? And there's an old saying that old preachers told me, and I used to hear old people say it all the time: you can't keep a bird from flying over your head, but you can keep them from making a nest in your head. And what they were basically saying is that sometimes you can't keep certain thoughts from coming into your mind. They just flow in and out because we are bombarded with so much information, especially now in this information age. But you do get to decide whether they remain there and become a point of focus for you, whether you apply or give your energy to those thoughts. Because that energy, that awareness, that focus, that consciousness is the real you. And that consciousness, that awareness, that focus, that soul and spirit is the essence and power of all things that are divine. That divine essence is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and omniactive. And that's why if you continue to focus upon the image, the thought, the idea, the concept, the belief, you will then begin to magnify it until it becomes a manifestation, because then the universe, operating by the laws that govern it, now has the responsibility of reflecting back to you a physical representation of the thing that you are holding as your most dominant thought, those thoughts that you are giving energy to. that you are giving your essence, your power, or your divinity to. You are not the thought, you are the power, the divinity, the essence, or the awareness behind the thought. Let me say that again. You are not the thought, you are the essence, the awareness, the divinity, the power, the force, the energy behind the thought. And so you gird up the loins, that is the creative forces of your mind, your conscious awareness. Gird it up, that is, bring it under control. Be intentional with it, to protect it, to fortify it, to bring it to the place where you are able to be deliberate and intentional about what you apply your energy, your force, your divinity, your power, your essence to, because in giving it over to whatever thought that you allow to remain as a dominant fixture in your conscious mind, you are giving life to that thought. Are you hearing what I'm saying? You are giving life to that thought. So then when I began to disconnect myself, and by recognizing that I am not my thoughts, I am not my body, I am not the car I drive, the house I live in, the job that I go to, I am not the religion that I practice. When I began to divorce myself from that ideology, it liberates me and frees me to be able then to expand my conscious awareness and began to recognize that I can apply that energy, force, divinity, power, essence to whatever I choose to, and I choose to apply it to those things that serve my highest good, that serve to help me in being the highest and greatest and best version of myself. Whatever does not serve me, what does not elevate me, what does not align itself with my highest and best desires, then I don't give it my energy, my essence, by allowing it to remain as a dominant force of thought, an idea, or a concept within my conscious awareness. Because you can always change your mind. Woo. Let me say that again. You can always, I know that sounds really simplistic, but it's a very profound statement. You can always change your mind. And I just made a post right before coming on air and saying that real intellectual maturity is the ability to be able to be open to the possibilities of truths that you have not become fully consciously aware of, without feeling like your own truth that you have known is under threat. Why? Because you are not attached to that truth. You recognize that that truth is fluid. What is true for you today may not be true for you tomorrow. What is true and serves your highest good today may not be the truth that serves your highest good tomorrow. So I am not married, attached, tied, or tethered to that particular idea, concept, ideology, because it is not my identity. I am simply the essence, the power, the conscious awareness that is observing that particular truth. And because I am not tied or tethered to it, releasing it then is a simple act of surrender. and it doesn't cause me any chaos or pain or anarchy because I was never married to it in the first place. I saw it as the tool that it was. It was present at that moment or moments in my life to serve me, to serve the purpose for which it appeared at the moment. And when its purpose is complete, then I have no issue with releasing it in exchange for a truth now that serves where I am at the moment. Are you understanding what I'm saying? This is absolutely true as it relates to religion. All religions, ladies and gentlemen, their initial genesis was designed with the intent of giving men or humanity the tools necessary to reconnect with their own divinity, their essence, or with God within them. That's why every religion at its fundamental foundation holds the same as essential truth. It is only when you begin to go further out and expand into the minutia of those religious ideologies that they become dangerous, because rather than the religion being used for what it was intended, they were a practice or a principle designed to help reconnect humanity with their own divinity or with God within. Ego decided to identify themselves with the tool. And so instead of practicing the practices associated with the religious idea or concept, practicing Christianity, practicing Islam, practicing Buddhism, practicing Hinduism, they became identified with the tool or the practice. And so now I don't practice Christianity, I'm a Christian. I don't practice Judaism, I'm a Jew. I don't practice Hinduism, I'm a Hindu. I don't practice Buddhism, I'm a Buddhist. And so when you begin to identify with a particular tool, now you are confined to the parameters of that particular tool. As I said on Sunday, a hammer is a tool that is designed to drive a nail. But we don't take a hammer and use it to drive the nail. And because we were successful in driving the nail, we now identify ourselves as a hammer. You don't go around calling yourself a hammer. You recognize that the hammer was simply a tool in your hand used to accomplish a particular task that was necessary for you to be able to do. So you used the tool designed to help you in fulfilling that particular task. But you didn't become identified with the tool. Ladies and gentlemen, religious practices become a religion and religious ideology when you cease to use them as the tool they were designed to be, and begin through your egoic mind to identify yourself with the tool. And so you went from the practices of Christianity and became a Christian, identified as a Christian, and thereby became tethered and tied and bound by the parameters of Christianity, which were set up not by God, but by men. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Yeah, not set up by God, not set up by the divine creator, but set up by men who said, well, in order to be a Christian, you have to, and you know it was set up by men because you see how it has evolved over time. And I'm just saying Christianity because it's the one I'm the most familiar with because I was raised in Christianity. But this is true of every religion, whether it's Islam or whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, or Judaism, or Taoism. It's the same thing, and but you know that it's not fundamental or solid because it has evolved over time. What was acceptable as a Christian in the 20s is not acceptable as a Christian in 2022. What was not allowed in Christianity in the 1700s is now readily embraced by Christians in 2022. Why? Because they have evolved in their understanding, their thinking, and what is practical and what works in 2022. By necessity, the religion began to evolve as the people who practiced the religion began to evolve. And so those strict, stern, unrealistic ways of thinking that said you couldn't wear this, you couldn't do this, you couldn't go there, you couldn't be this, that, or the other are now formally relaxed. And we thought, well, we know better now. No, you just evolved in your thinking. So therefore, if Christianity as a religion can evolve over time, it is not based upon settled absolutes, but it is based upon ideas and concepts that are accepted as a truth that serves the moment or the time in which those who came up with it are in. But as the times began to change and the practices began to evolve, those ideologies no longer serve. Not to mention, ladies and gentlemen, that's just the basic fundamental. But that's not to mention during the evolutionary process, all of the different pollutions and outright lies that have been infused into those principles, practices, and ideologies associated with different religions. Every religion, and I said this to someone the other day, I'm trying to think of who it was. Someone texted me about voodoo and roots. Oh, I remember who it was. Okay, but I won't call their name. And was asking about, but I thought you said that none of these things, no one can control you or put something on you and all those things. And I said, well, they can't. Well, isn't that what these religious practices, voodoo and root work and Santa Maria and Santeria, rather, and others like that, don't they have their basis in saying that they can put this on you and control human behavior? And my response to them was this: every religion, and voodoo is a religion, so is Santeria, and so is root work, or what all those things are part of religion. They're different religious practices. There's not no demons and devils and okay. You'd be surprised at some of the things that are practiced in voodoo that's also practiced in Christianity. But that's a whole nother conversation, okay? But every religion has its mythology. Let me say it again. Every religion, no matter what it is, from Hinduism to Buddhism to Christianity to Islam, they all have their mythologies. Okay? I was shocked, dismayed, angered, a little pissed off today to listen to a well-renowned, well-known preacher today, and I'll call his name, Keon Henderson, protege of T.D. Jakes. I think he just married Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife, whatever her name is, I forgot that one. But anyway, well-known, huge church, huge ministry, internationally known. Get up and repeat the talking points and parrot the racist rhetoric that has been imposed upon Christians by white evangelicalism for centuries about the country Haiti. And so he stood there boldly as though he was saying something profound and something really just super deep and spiritual, and repeated this racist rhetoric about the country of Haiti having a spirit of a spirit sitting over it, demonic spirit sitting over it because of their practice of voodoo. Not even realizing that your ancestors all practiced voodoo. That's one thing. Number two, there's no such thing as a spirit sitting over a particular country. That's number two, ignorance. Number three, not understanding. I could tell from listening to his statements that either you've never been to Haiti or you don't know any Haitian people really, and you don't know the culture. He tried to draw a difference between Haiti and the DR, not recognizing that the same people that are in DR are the same people that are in Haiti. They just happen to be in different parts of the same place. Now they'll get real upset. You start saying Haiti is the same as DR and DR is the same as Haiti, but they are essentially the same people in different countries, like those jokers in Fitzgerald and Oscilla. I ain't from no Fitzgerald. I'm from Oscilla. Oh, Negro, please. They're your cousins. Oh, Lord have mercy. All my folks down there in that South Georgia area, they're going to get mad at me, but it's the truth. Okay, so but he didn't understand it and didn't know the history of the Haitian people. And clearly you've never been there, because if you did have, you would know that it is not the most impoverished place as you think that it is. And all these, everything is just all torn down and run down, and people are starving to death. And there are beautiful, beautiful parts of that island, and people are flourishing and doing well. Yes, there are parts of it that are impoverished, just as there are parts of the United States that are impoverished, just as there are parts of Texas, the state he's in, that is impoverished, or the city that he's in that are impoverished, and others that are more affluent. But it is one of the myths, the lies, the racist rhetoric that has been infused into Christianity by its overlords, its masters, the white men who labeled every black country, but majority black country, from the continent of Africa and all 57 countries there to all of the West Indies and any other place where there were mostly black and brown people, to say that they were demonic, that they were ungodly, that they were savages, that they practiced some strange God, worshiping some strange God around strange fire. And so we ignorantly parrot that thing because that's what we were taught. And so we go around calling it a demon and a devil and a spirit that's sitting over the island. The only demon that's sitting over Haiti is France and the United States. That's a whole nother, man, y'all really don't want me to get into that conversation. That you want to talk about the demon sitting over the island. Look at the United States and its policies, and France and their policies. But that's a whole nother conversation. My point in bringing that up is that all of these things have been infused with mythologies and lies and men's ideas and concepts and beliefs. And so if you begin to, through your egoic mind, to identify yourself with a particular religious practice, you confine yourself to the parameters of that particular practice. If you will embrace ideology like that one, that's not based in truth, but that has a completely different agenda attached to it that you ignorantly promote. And all that tends to do is put you in further and further disadvantage. A type of bondage, if you will. Okay? I made another post just before coming on the air and said, the difference is that you are trying to save souls. I'm trying to free souls from the idea that they need to be saved. That there is something inherently wrong with them, that they are somehow inherently bad, evil, wicked, broken, and destined for destruction. I'm trying to promote the idea that there is nothing bad, evil, wicked, or ungodly about you, that you are the divine likeness and image of God, of all that is holy, and that even if you were to tie yourself to the teachings of that same book, the Bible that you cherish, then how do you reconcile the finished work of Christ with the idea that it's not finished because you are still lost and on your way to destruction and hell? Come on. Come on. How do you reconcile? God so loved the cosmos, the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him, didn't say that you had to be baptized, that you had to speak in tongues, that you had to hick a Messiah and roll on the floor and spit bubbles, that you had to be a tithe payer and jump over pews and spit and fall and holler and run. He simply says, if you simply just believe, you don't perish and you have everlasting life. So now, even if you embrace the ideology of Christianity, how do you reconcile that contradiction? If it was finished, then it was finished. And if it wasn't, then what was the point of the cross? Are you hearing what I'm saying? But the egoic mind needs something to identify itself with, something to attach itself to. That's why you have the mind and my house, my car, my job, my clothes, my shoes, my this, that, and the other, because the egoic mind needs something to attach itself to. And so when those things are taken, it's as though someone has taken a part of you. That's why people fall to pieces if they lose my house, my car, my job, because you have placed your identity in things. You have egoically attached yourself to identifying and defining yourself by the things that you have. And even your Bible says a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of things that he possesses. In other words, my life is not defined by the things that are present in it. I am not defined by the relationship. I'm not defined by the house or the car or the money or the job or the neighborhood or the city or the state that I live in. I am not defined by the culture or the environment or the family or the religion that I practice. I am not defined by any of those things. I'm not defined by whether I'm tall or short or fat or skinny or whether I'm black or white or Asian or Latino. I am not defined by an ethnicity, a race, or a culture. I am not defined. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen? I hope that I'm getting through to you. You and I are not defined by any of the things that the ego has attached itself to. So their removal does not execute my identity. Their removal does not now cause me to fall into chaos and confusion because I don't know who I am without these people, places, or things. Are you hearing me? I wear them loosely like a garment because I understand that they are just simply the tools that I have in order to be able to navigate this three-dimensional existence and to have an experience. And when their usefulness has passed, releasing them is no longer an issue. Because I was never attached in the first place. They never defined me. Are you hearing me? People become attached to relationships. And so when they turn unhealthy, when they become chaotic or abusive, broken, they remain, cling, because they find their identity in the relationship, and so they become enablers. Yes, y'all remember that? Codependents and enablers are narcissistic or a combination of all of the three. Because they are defined, they find their worth, their value, their definition, their identity in a thing rather than in who they really are. When you began to understand and accept who you are not, who you are will automatically surface. Let me say it again. Good gracious, that is so good. When you can begin to accept, embrace, identify who you are not, what you are not, then who you are will automatically begin to surface. Your true essence, your true being will begin to emerge. And you'll begin to see your truest, highest, best self. But as long as you tie your identity to people, places, and things, to practices, cultures, environments, religions, relationships, you will always be bound by the parameters in which those things exist. And you will always be controlled by those who seem to hold the lever of those things in their hands. See, it was not by accident that men began to push the idea of you identifying yourself with a particular religious ideology or a particular culture or a particular environment or a particular country or a particular state. Are you understanding me? Why? Because if I can get you to identify as any of those things, as one, then in positioning myself as one who controls the levers of power within the construct, I then get to manipulate and control all those whose identity depends upon it. Are you hearing me? Literally millions, almost billions identify as Catholic, and the Pope holds the lever of power and then now controls their identity with it. You're a good Catholic, you this. You're a bad Catholic, you're this. You're going to be a good Catholic, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't behave this way, and you can't do this, and you can do that, and you can accept this, and you can't accept that. And so they shift their behavior, what is true to them, their truth begins to evolve and devolve and shift based upon the person who they believe holds the levers of power within the construct that they have identified themselves with. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Huh? Are you hearing what I'm saying? I'll distill it down to something that's maybe a little bit more relatable within your own household. Those who hold the power, the levers of power within the household says that this household operates like this. We behave and think and move and believe like this. This is our set of values and morals and character and concept and outlook and perception. And if you do not fit within the parameters of that which those who hold the levers of power, mom, dad, grandma, granddad, cousins, and aunties, or whoever, and say this is what you are to be as a part of this family, then you're looked upon as an outcast or a black sheep. You are not fully accepted or embraced because you don't fit within the parameters that have been set by those who hold the levers of power within the construct. And as long as you identify with the construct, then they can manipulate and control you. The moment you free yourself from the construct and recognize that my identity is not found in things, it is not found in anything outside of myself. I am my own identity. I am that I am. Ooh, let me say it. I said, I am that I am. I am that I am. My identity is not based upon anything outside of me. No external thing defines, constricts, or contracts me. I am that I am. Then those who sit in the positions of authority and power within the construct no longer have the ability to manipulate and control. Are you hearing me? You can no longer be manipulated by your own mind, because many of you that are watching me right now, your greatest battle, the greatest battle you will ever fight in your life is with your own mind. Your mind telling you that you are someone that you're not, that you are something that you're not, that you are limited when you are limitless, that you are powerless when you are powerful, that you are a dud, that you are broken, that there's something wrong with you, something missing in you, something that you have a deficit, that you are somehow not enough, when in fact you are infinite and profound and creative and divine. Yet those thoughts keep echoing in your head, and if you keep identifying yourself with the thought, then you will find yourself now being manipulated and controlled by the thought. And whoever is the progenitor of the thought then is the one who is still holding the levers of power in your life. But when you understand, I am not my thoughts, the bird may fly over my head, but it will not make a nest in my hair, because I am not the thought. I am the observer. I am the thinker of the thought. I am the energy, the source behind it, and therefore I can shift it, change it. I can anachronosis. I can renew my mind. I can change my mind. Then you can no longer be bound and manipulated by those thoughts that keep kind of creeping into your head, banging against the door of your divinity, trying to convince you that you are something less than what you are.
Did you hear what I just said? Yes? I said I wasn't going to just preach at you. We're going to have a real conversation, and I just been going on. Y'all ain't really saying too much in the comments, so you can't just blame me. Let me. I see y'all just saying "said" and "wow," "my God," and "yes." See, so you can't, y'all can't get mad at me. I'm just rambling on. But are you understanding? I pray that it is impacting and getting through to you, and that you are really grasping this concept. You are not your thoughts. The ego does not control you. Divorce yourself from it. Let it go of every attachment to everything external from you, and recognize that you are the essence, the power of the spirit, the soul. You are the divinity behind it all. You are the conscious awareness, observing all of it as it unfolds in front of you. And you get to determine what you accept and what you release, what serves you and what doesn't serve you, what promotes you to your highest levels and moves you along your evolutionary process, coming to the next place moment in your destiny, and what doesn't. You get to determine those things. And then, therefore, you're able to release whatever no longer serves you without feelings of guilt or shame or condemnation or fear or doubt or worry. You're able to release it. Not condemn it, because its presence may have been necessary to bring you to this particular point, but to release it because it no longer serves who you are being and who you are becoming. Who are you being and who are you becoming? Are you understanding what I'm saying? So the way to divorce yourself from the egoic mind is not to sit there and try and think of, I got to stop doing this. That's not the way to do it, because if you do it that way, ego's just going to come in and begin to identify itself with the thinker that's thinking how not to think about ego. No. You simply began to shift your focus toward the things that best serve you, and relinquish your attachment to all things. That's it. Relinquish your attachments to all things. And understand that everything is here for a purpose, for a moment, for a service. It's a tool provided to me in the grand scope of the divine plan that I co-created with the Creator before the foundations of the world. And when that tool has fulfilled its purpose and has lived out its usefulness, I'll put down the hammer and pick up the next tool. Doesn't dismiss the hammer, doesn't lessen the hammer. As a matter of fact, someone else may come along and use the same hammer, but the hammer is no longer useful to me. Doesn't mean it's no longer useful. It's just no longer useful to me. Good gracious. Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that? Doesn't mean that it's no longer useful. It's still very useful. Others will come along and use that same hammer. It's just no longer useful to me. And I'm not going to condemn the ones that are using the hammer because I no longer need it. Oh, Lord have mercy. No. Because we're all in different phases of the building stage. While some may need the hammer, and another needs a saw, and another needs a screwdriver, and another needs a level, another needs a trowel, another needs whatever. We're all working to build our own experience. And so I don't need to put a value judgment on any of the tools. I just need to make sure I grab the tools that are necessary for what I'm at and what stage of the building process I'm in right now. Yeah. Are y'all, can you feel me with both hands? I'm through. I'm through. All right, listen, guys, I haven't asked you for an offering in quite some time now, so I am going to ask you tonight, for those of you who can and will, to sow, to give, to demonstrate your appreciation for these empowerment sessions by demonstrating it by your generosity. And so I'm going to ask you to take advantage of either our Cashapp or Zelle. Do it right now before you put your cell phone down, and go ahead and send whatever gift that you want to give in support of the work that we are doing here. I really appreciate each and every one of you for your support. And for those of you, there are some of you that give regularly all the time. I appreciate you. There are others of you who give sparingly here and there. I appreciate you. And then there are others of you who don't ever give anything. Guess what? I appreciate you as well. Okay? This is just an opportunity. It's not an obligation. So if you want to take advantage of the opportunity to demonstrate your appreciation and support for this work, I encourage you to do so. Do it right now. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you back here on Sunday at 9 a.m. for our next empowerment session. You have a good night, and we'll see you soon.